Welcome back to the Crash Course podcast. My name is Craig Crash Collins, joined as always by Brandon Scott, otherwise known as B. Scott. Well, you know, it doesn't seem like that long ago that we were wrapping up the Indy 500. Honestly, it doesn't seem like that long ago that we were talking about the Daytona 500, but both NASCAR and IndyCar are back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is the racing super weekend here in the state of Indiana. We're going to hop into it here. We're going to talk about some IndyCar. We're going to catch you guys up on what's happened since the last time we talked IndyCar. We're going to preview both races this weekend. We're going to preview the IndyCar race. We're going to talk about some NASCAR as well, preview that race. A lot of racing to talk about this week, B. Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for it. I love racing. I know our listeners, our viewers, they love racing too. If you're from the state of Indiana, it's right up there with basketball in importance. So let's do it. It's time to go fast.
Oh yeah, time to go fast. Well, hey, you know what? What better segue than to get quickly in to our IndyCar conversation here? Hopping right into it. Let's catch you guys up on what happened since the last time we talked IndyCar here on the show. It was all the way back. You got to rewind back to June, I believe it was, the Detroit Grand Prix. Will Power gets his first win of the season. He avenges last season's disappointment at Detroit, where he, after a red flag, could not get refired. So he was able to do that. And I didn't realize, I knew he won the race, obviously, but I did not realize that he started 16th. I was at work during that race, so I just saw the end of it, so I didn't realize he started 16th for that one. So pretty impressive to be able to do that on the road course there. He charges through the field to take the lead on lap 14. He takes the lead for the final time on lap 27. He absolutely dominated the race, leading 55 of 70 laps. Alexander Rossi, Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, and Pato O'Ward round out the top five. Then they went to Road America, the Sansio Grand Prix of Road America, and there was a lot of attrition in like the first 10 laps of this race. You first have Jimmy Johnson, his road course woes continue, or his IndyCar woes in general continue. As he spins on lap 1. Then you had some contact between teammates, Alex Palou and Marcus Ericsson. They made contact on lap 4, causing him to go off course. So there was a little bit of an issue there. Lap 8, Delvin DeFrancesco and Will Power make contact. Power crashes in turn 5. So just a lot of craziness early on in that race. Everything sort of leveled off there. It's an exciting race. I mean, 10 lead changes among 7 drivers. Joseph Newgarden takes the lead on lap 43. He led 26 of 55 laps to take home the win. Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Rossi, Romain Grosjean, and Colton Herta round out the top 5. Then they went to Mid-Ohio, the Honda Indy 200. Pato O'Ward led the first 28 laps of that race. Scott McLaughlin took over on lap 29, and it was really all McLaughlin from there, as he led 45 of 80 laps. Alex Palou, Will Power, Rinus VeeKay, and Scott Dixon round out the top 5. Then the Honda Indy Toronto. We're almost all caught up here. Colton Herta starts P1. He leads the first 18 laps. The race stays predominantly green until lap 45. Felix Rosenqvist makes contact with Alexander Rossi, who crashes. Rinus VeeKay, the leader on the restart, was the leader on the restart after the Rossi incident. Dixon takes the lead on lap 61. He ends up taking the win. He ends his longest winless streak of his career. He gets his 52nd win, tying him with Mario Andretti for the second all-time. And the rest of the top 5 look like this: Colton Herta, Felix Rosenqvist, Grant Rahal, and Marcus Ericsson. So good to see Dixon get back on track there. And then last but not least, the doubleheader weekend at Iowa this past weekend. You had the Hy-Vee Deals 250 on Saturday. Joseph Newgarden absolutely dominated really the whole weekend, but he dominates that first race. He starts P2, takes the lead for the first time on lap 23. He took the lead for the final time on lap 80. He led 208 of 250 laps. Pato O'Ward, Will Power complete the podium. Rinus VeeKay and Scott Dixon complete the top 5. Then finally, the Hy-Vee Salute to Farmers 300. Joseph Newgarden dominates again. He leads 148 laps, but on lap 199, something breaks on Newgarden's car. He crashes into turn 4. Some scary stuff there, as he was later hospitalized, but he's since been released, right? He's all good. Or
Yeah,
I
so
know,
he was released from the infield care center post accident, and then post race he fell or collapsed or something,
I think
and
the press.
was sent
I know the
back
statement
to
said he
the
was
care
fell.
center.
Yeah.
What was that?
No, I
Yeah,
said the statement said he fell, and then was taken to
yeah,
like the
he
local
fell.
like local hospital.
Yeah, so he was sent to the infield care center again, where they transported him to the local hospital, and he has since been released. However, I don't know if he's been medically cleared yet to compete this coming weekend.
I know
So
Santino Ferrucci's on
Santino
call.
Ferrucci is on call because Santino Ferrucci is actually racing in the Xfinity race on Saturday too. So hey, and I think I know, like, I think Sage Karam might be around as well. So there's options if he can't go. I would love to see Santino Ferrucci in a Penske car.
Oh yeah.
Just saying, I think that would be great. But hopefully Joseph Newgarden's able to go.
Yeah, hopefully he's all good. Pato O'Ward takes the lead off of that incident. He claims the win. He's won the last race of each of the last 3 doubleheaders, which is pretty wild. Will Power, Scott McLaughlin, Scott Dixon, and Jimmy Johnson finish out the top 5 there. So, we talked about it a little bit. We thought, back in May, we thought it would be more, even more fun to talk about it after they still have Gateway, the second to last oval on the schedule for IndyCar, and that is leading into our question: hot or cold? IndyCar needs more ovals on the schedule. For me, that is a hot take. IndyCar has 15 tracks on the schedule: 6 road courses, 5 street courses, and 4 ovals. As someone who grew up watching NASCAR, oval racing has always been more exciting to me. There is a $1 million bonus for charity for winning all 3 types of circuits, which means there is some importance and value that the series puts on being good across the board. So why not add one more oval race? Don't need to make it perfectly balanced. We're not Thanos here. If we can just have it, maybe 5 ovals, 5 street courses, 6 road courses, I feel like that's a pretty good distribution. So yeah, I think adding another oval too will be nice, because look, there's some great ovals out there. We're gonna talk about our favorite ovals here in a minute, but I watching the races this week, they went fast, they were entertaining. It's more or less short tracks. I don't think they necessarily need to go back to like Auto Club Speedway or Michigan. Yeah, any place
Las
like
Vegas.
that. Yeah, and understandably, there's a lot of issues with like tracks like Texas and like what Atlanta used to be. So we're not necessarily saying that, but if you put them back on some short tracks, I think that would be really good for the sport.
Yeah, I do too. This isn't just a hot take. This is a scorching hot take. We see some of the best action, like consistent action, when these drivers hit the ovals, especially these smaller ovals like Iowa. I love that Iowa got put back onto the schedule because it's an entertaining track. There's not a bad seat in the entire place. The doubleheader is awesome, and literally this track is in the middle of nowhere. I drove by this track driving out to Omaha a couple of weeks ago, and it just all of a sudden, boom, there's this racetrack that pops up just short right off the interstate. It's a beautiful facility. So I am so glad to see that they made it back there. They got that back on the schedule. It is entertaining. The ovals are always entertaining. And we're not, the Indy 500 is entertaining because, the pride, the pageantry, and everything that goes along with that. But these shorter tracks, I'm going to say the shorter, flatter tracks, because that sets up really well for these cars. Oh my gosh. Like, we're going to talk about our favorite ovals, but one of my favorites that I really hope they bring back. I'll get into that, but
go ahead. We'll just transition into it.
Sure. Okay, I'll go. Mine. I love some of the old ones, but my favorite, the one that I feel like if they went back to it, it's just I like it even in NASCAR. New Hampshire. The last time they raced there was in 2011. They started there in 1992. Yeah.
From Will Power.
Yeah. But they started there in 1992 under the kart series. But oh my gosh, that the paperclip is, it's fun watching NASCAR on that track. So I want to see IndyCar get back there. I think this would be a real, almost kind of like a go-kart version, I feel like, of IMS. I don't know why I feel that way, but it just would be a really fun track because those turns are so sharp. It would really take really good setups. So these Indy cars could get down those straightaways really quick and just set up for some really exciting racing, I feel like.
Yeah, I know New Hampshire would be good. I know you talked about, or we talked about Martinsville would be interesting.
Martinsville, another
That'd
one
be
just similar to New Hampshire, yeah.
right. I used to love the IndyCar race at Richmond. They
Oh
last
yeah.
were there in 2009. I was a big fan of that race back in the day. I think that would be a fun one. Some other ones I could throw out here. Bristol, IRP. I think how incredible would it be during the month of May if they had a race at IRP, the road course, and the Indy 500. You could even do like some
I
like
feel like they need to do an Indy Lights race at IRP.
that would be really cool.
I
Like
would
it,
love that.
and maybe do another charity award and have the individual have like maybe an individual point standings for the month of May. Like if you had the best 3 races of the month of May, then you can donate 1 million to charity or something like that. Like that would be
Yeah.
another cool thing to do. I think that would be fun. The Milwaukee Mile, they last raced that in 2015. One thing I thought of, and I don't know how realistic this is. I don't know. I know there's been some talk of legitimate revival at this place, but I thought it would be a fun idea to like NASCAR fans have been clamoring for North Wilkesboro to come back to the schedule. So wouldn't it be funny if IndyCar like sniped it from them and got back there first and cultivated like that part of the racing world that has been starving for a race since they left? I thought that would be kind of cool. I know it would be kind of IndyCar impeding on something that's got a lot of NASCAR history, but at the end of the day, a lot of the ovals have.
I mean,
that's
look,
true.
IMS competed on IndyCar but
right.
what about Kentucky?
So
Kentucky is an odd track even for NASCAR.
It is odd. I don't know how
it's
big
a larger track, but it's got that like Iowa feel.
It does. It's like what is it 1.5? Because I don't know how leery IndyCar is to go back to bigger ovals aside from the Indianapolis.
What about like Phoenix then?
Phoenix would be good. That's another good one. That's one that's got IndyCar history as well.
Yeah.
So that would be a good one. I do agree with that. Because I don't see them ever going to like a Chicagoland or a Kansas or any place like
or
that
Michigan
anymore. Michigan, yeah.
Like that,
so I think they'd stay away from the bigger ovals, but some of those shorter ovals, and I think Kentucky might be like just within that threshold, too. So
because Kentucky's a little bit flatter. It is a little bit flatter than say Kansas or Michigan or Chicagoland. I mean, even NASCAR is not going back to Chicagoland. Instead, they're going to the streets of Chicago.
Right. Which we'll get.
They're trying to take on the success that Formula One saw in Miami and that IndyCar sees in Nashville.
Right. So if you could pick just one of those, to see added or swapped into the schedule, which one would you want to see? Like of those, Richmond. Yeah.
I want to see Richmond in there.
Yeah. I think that's the easiest one. I don't know why I think it's so easy, but I feel like that's the easiest one to just plug back in.
Because it's got the best of all worlds, to be honest. It's flat, it's shorter, it's wide, and these cars can still go full out almost on it, but it's safe in that sense. It's safe in a sense they can go full out, but not like clear for takeoff flying through the air. Right. But I feel like Richmond would really set up for some really good racing. I mean, like I said, New Hampshire, but like the turns are really tight. They're tight. And NASCAR, you're able to beat and bang those cars pretty hard. And same thing with Martinsville. But I feel like Richmond, it's wide enough. You could see that 3 wide racing with the Indy cars through there, especially at near the start finish line. I think it would be pretty exciting. But yeah, and if I could you put in there, swap it out with something on the schedule.
Well, I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't know if they would want to make the season like 1 week long. I mean, they do take a lot of off weeks, so I mean, you could.
I guess if you had to swap anything out, I'd hate to say this, but swap out the July race at IMS on the road course.
Swap it out for IRP.
I see IRP. I feel like it's a little bit too small.
Maybe.
I don't think it would be constantly
Winchester
turning.
Speedway.
It would be so small that I don't think you would see really good racing.
Yeah.
Like you need it to be a little bit bigger. So I don't know. I feel like the July race is kind of here at IMS is a little bit of an afterthought because the main event really is NASCAR.
But
at the same time, it's interesting because last year I went to this event and I'm going again this year. I go for the full weekend. And what's interesting is that the crowd on Saturday with the IndyCar race, then followed up by the Xfinity race, is actually larger than the crowd is on Sunday for the NASCAR, whatever Brickyard, whatever the Brickyard is now.
Yeah, Verizon 200 at the Brickyard.
Yeah, the Verizon 250. So it's actually the IndyCar crowd is bigger. My buddy Pat and I were talking about this. We were really kind of hoping this would grow grow the fan base for IndyCar, which I think it kind of did. But we also hoped it would grow the fan base for NASCAR at IMS, which I don't know if it really accomplished that yet. And maybe it might, I don't know. We'll see what it looks like this year. But honestly, I would probably swap that out. And if it meant another oval rather than repeating a same race.
Yeah.
At IMS. We already see it once.
Because is that the only repeat track on the schedule?
I mean, other than the double headers.
Well, right, but like
the only repeat track on the schedule.
Yeah, because you could just fight, and you kind of got into what I was thinking as well, which is, what would the NASCAR scene look like if you took away the Indy cars from this weekend? Because I think you need the Indy cars there for there to be, the draw that it has already, alone.
It's like $35 to get in, and that's the thing, because most of it also is general admission.
Right.
Sitting on the mounds, but I would just take it off because what makes the IndyCar race on the road course at IMS intriguing in May is the possibility of weather and how we saw that this year and how they strategize around that. And the other thing that's really intriguing is how they all get down there into turn one at the start of the race. Well, they've been racing here on this road course long enough now. They figured out how to maneuver that turn at the start of the race. So it's like, especially by the time they get back here in July and they've done how many laps on that road course. And it's just like, they get down there and they get through it. And you're like, okay, there was the 1 point of action. And then they start getting pretty spread out on it because the backstretch on the road course is really long. So I think I would definitely swap the July race out and put in another oval like Richmond or something like that.
Yeah,
to make it just a little bit more entertaining in the schedule.
I'm definitely with you on Richmond. I still think it'd be kind of funny to snipe North Wilkesboro, but yeah, I mean, definitely another oval for sure on the schedule. So let's go ahead. Speaking of the race on the road course, let's transition that in to look a little bit more, at the state of IndyCar at the moment. The point standings look like this. Marcus Ericsson still holds his lead. He is 8 points ahead of Will Power. Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon are both 34 points behind, and 36 back is Pato O'Ward. So you kind of look at that and you kind of, look for things to stick out. And for me, it's Marcus Ericsson still leading the points. I know we talked about after his win in the Indy 500, I know my thing to look out for the rest of the season or in the second half of the season was, could Marcus Ericsson keep that momentum up after winning the Indy 500? Because, he's got those kind of three random crazy wins, and he usually runs good, but we've never really considered him in the championship hunt. Could he capitalize off of that double point opportunity? Could he capitalize and stay up there? And I mean, he has. I mean, over the last 20,
his lead has.
I mean, yeah,
pretty significant.
Over the last 28 races, beginning of 2021 to now, his average finish before the Indy 500 win was 9th. After his Indy 500 win, albeit a smaller sample size, is 5th. He led the point standings after 13, or he led the point standings by 13 after Indy, by 8 now. So he had actually grown it a little bit and just like kind of lost it in the last couple of weeks. Coming out of Indy, Penske was coming off of a rough month by their standards. Scott Dixon was in the throes of his longest winning streak, or winless streak, excuse me, and another disappointing Indy 500. And if you had told me that, after the Indy 500 that Scott Dixon would break his winless streak, all three Penske drivers would be back in winner's circle, since then. I would have thought Ericsson would have faded back a bit, not necessarily be, he's only 8 points up as opposed to 13 like he was after Indy. Like, no, I would have expected him to be second, third, maybe even fourth. And he's still right there atop the point standings. Now, granted, if it hadn't been for Newgarden crashing in the second race at Iowa, he would have had the lead. But nonetheless, Ericsson's at the top of the poll as it stands right now. So, he has kept that momentum. So it's nice to kind of see a driver win the Indy 500 and then keep that momentum rolling, months after that race is over.
Yeah, I mean, it is good. He has been running well, and he's been avoiding the DNFs. That's the big thing. I do feel like it is a little bit harder though to earn points in IndyCar than it is in NASCAR. Like NASCAR, you get a point for winning this stage, you get a point for winning the other stage, here's some more points for winning the race. I feel like gaps can be closed a lot quicker in NASCAR based on the point standings. But yeah, I mean, he's a great story right now. Definitely something to keep an eye on. But I think for me, the biggest thing that's standing out right now as we're going down the home stretch of the season is how there are 5 drivers within 36 points of each other for that lead. And that is really setting up for an exciting finish to the end of the IndyCar season, especially when you got drivers from all different teams. You got the big gun. Really, let's be honest. It's the 3 big teams right now that are all in the news. It's Penske, it's Ganassi. Oh, and by the way, it's also Arrow McLaren, who's really making the headlines right now too. So it's really setting up. You've got your veteran drivers like your Will Power, your Scott Dixon. I'm even going to say Joseph Newgarden in that sense, because he is a former champ, and he's not. I mean, he's young still, but I'm not going to put him in the same conversation as like Alex Palou, who, I mean, yeah, he's a former champion too, or Pato O'Ward. Guys like that, or even Marcus Ericsson.
I mean, Newgarden, you forget he's been around since what, like 2014,
he's been
2015.
He's been racing since like he was 17.
Right, yeah, because he was like, I forget, like every time I go to his page, like I forget that he was like with what, Sarah Fisher Racing.
Racing, and he got bought up, and they merged with Ed Carpenter, and then he just stayed with Ed Carpenter, and yeah, he's been around for a while. I mean, he was used to racing the Dollar General car. I mean, and then he also came up through Indy Lights. You forget about that as well. So he's been around a really long time.
Right.
And he's still really young, which is amazing. I feel like Joseph Newgarden really has an opportunity if he, takes it to become one of the best all time. But that's a different conversation for a different time. But right now, I'm loving how there are 5 drivers that are seriously in contention for this championship. I can't say this is going to be the driver that wins. Typically, we might have a 2 to 3 team or 3 driver race for that championship. But with 5, it's like I can't pinpoint who I think is going to come out on top of this, because they're all so close, and all of those drivers are fully capable of winning any race at any time, or even putting together a string of races where they win. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that battle down the stretch.
Yeah, it really is. We talked about Newgarden. We mentioned, Penske being up there. So as we look at the Gallagher Grand Prix this weekend, the first main question before we get into our predictions I want to ask is, you take Team Penske or you take the field? I mean, Penske has won 8 of 11 races on the IMS road course. They're, like I said, they've literally all 3 drivers have won, a couple of them multiple times since since we spoke last on the subject. So I mean, they've really turned it around after the bad
weather,
right?
Too, for me. But weather is not going to be an issue. Like when you've seen in the past when the weather's been an issue, it's Penske's won one of those races, but the driver that won that race is not with Penske anymore.
Right. But still, Penske Power won those races.
Well, I know. When I'm looking at like I'm putting out my reasoning here, okay?
Yeah,
Bear with me. So when it's been rain involved, it's typically Penske has struggled, except for that one exception with Simon Pagenaud, who won the race. But Simon Pagenaud is no longer with Penske. I think rain really helped Colton Herta with his strategy. His strategy helped him win that race this past May. So because of, like, you look at how when the weather is good and there's no rain involved and the track conditions are ideal, you got to go with Penske just based historically on that. And I mean, Will Power owned this race last year. It looked like there was a chance for Romain Grosjean or Fat John to, he looked like he was going to have a good race, but nobody really had anything for Will Power. The only person I think that actually had something for him was Joseph Newgarden. And with him kind of being up in the air this weekend, which could be an issue in itself, I'm still going to go Penske on this one. I just feel like until somebody can truly dethrone Penske in perfect conditions on the IMS road course, you gotta go with Penske in this. Now, would I be surprised if like Alex Palou or Pato O'Ward came out on top of this one? No, not the least bit. But I think between taking Penske or the field, you got to go Penske at this point.
Oh yeah, for sure. And let's see, Saturday supposed to be a little colder. It's supposed to be low 59, high of 80, but does not look like going to be cloudy. It doesn't look like there's going to be any like rain.
That's ideal racing
right.
condition.
But yeah, I'm going to have to go with Penske too. In 6 races since the Indy 500, Team Penske has had 2 cars finish in the top 5, 4 times. 4 wins spread out among all 3 drivers. Will Power has finished in the top 5 in 9 of 12 races this season. He's a guy who has 5 of Penske's 8 wins on the IMS road course. So, I mean, you're talking about the hottest team is going to the track where they've had the most success. So that seems like it's a no-brainer, especially.
Of course, we said that same thing going into the month of May too. They were really hot going into the month of May, and they came out of there completely flat. But I mean, look, the conditions are going to be very similar to the way they were last year for this race. It was kind of cooler. It was, as a fan, as a spectator, it was great conditions, and Will Power ran away with that thing. So you got to look at that, and yeah, it's going to be tough to pick against them. This could be the race that really shakes. In my opinion, this race could really shake things up in the point standings as well.
So, last but not least, let's get to our predictions here for the Gallagher Grand Prix. We're going to predict our winner and our dark horse. As far as the winner's concerned, my prediction is I think Will Power is going to win. I said I was confident in Penske. Looking at, the other options you have for Penske, Scott McLaughlin's history at IMS road course, 8th, 23rd, and 20th, so he's had his struggles. Joseph Newgarden in 9 races on the IMS road course has an average finish of 10th. So I'm going to go with the guy who has been super consistent all year and has the most wins of any Penske driver on the IMS road course. So I'm going with Will Power. As far as like a dark horse, I'm going to go with Simon Pagenaud. I know that doesn't maybe seem like a dark horse just in the sense that he does.
It was your dark horse back in May too.
Might have been, yeah, might have been.
I think this was the same order.
Simon Pagenaud has 3 wins on the IMS road course. He finished 2nd on the road course in May. Before the GMR Grand Prix, Pagenaud had 1 top 10 finish, and Cincinnati's had 4, so he's had kind of a better season after that good race at the IMS road course, so he's turned things around. So, but yeah, I mean, and it doesn't help that if this was exactly the same as last time, that they both drivers I think had a pretty good race on the IMS road course back in May too. So. But yeah, those are my picks. Will Power as my winning pick, and Simon Pagenaud as my dark horse.
Yeah, I'm going with Will Power as well, even though he and I are bitter rivals. But like I said, the history just points right directly to him, and until otherwise proven, you got to go with history. So I'm going Will Power as my winner, but my dark horse, I really am going with Pato O'Ward. I just feel like he's kind of rounding into shape right now on the season. And I feel like this could be one of those big opportunities for him. And it's a good opportunity for him to take the momentum from Iowa and carry that right into this coming weekend. So my dark horse is Pato O'Ward, just based on on the momentum he could carry into it.
Well, and both drivers, Rosenquist and Award, were having good runs at the GMR Grand Prix until I think Rosenquist spun in front of Award, and that kind of took them both out of contention for the win. So they were good back in May. So that's a solid pick, as your dark horse there. So before we switch gears over into NASCAR, let's go ahead and hear from our friends of the show. First of all, from Anchor, the Crash Course podcast is brought to you by Anchor. Looking to start a podcast but don't know where to start? Look no further than Anchor.fm. Anchor allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or mobile device, and will distribute it to other sites such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. On a budget, not only is Anchor completely free of charge, but will allow you to make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Anchor, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Also, the Crash Course podcast is brought to you by Eat Lunch and Board Game, heard weekly on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be heard. Board games build. So looking now over to the NASCAR side of things, looking at the point standings, no, we're not going to get you up to speed because we haven't talked NASCAR since the Daytona 500, so that's a lot to get you caught up on.
Let me put it out. I'll sum it up in like one sentence. Chase Elliott is on fire.
Right.
I mean, that's all you really need to know.
He doesn't even have to be on the track to win races now. He's, literally won.
Hey, he finished third.
No, that's what I know.
I know he was on the track. You come on, stop.
Well,
it.
but when he was officially announced, he wasn't. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't. He wasn't.
Not the way he wants to win races, though.
No, definitely not. So you mentioned.
Can we talk about his new look, the mustache?
Oh, when I was going through it, I didn't realize that was a recent photo.
That is a recent photo. That is. I mean.
Hey,
that's an old school look, and that, like somebody said, he looks like he runs the Napa. He knows his way around the Napa auto parts store.
I mean, look, it takes a certain amount of confidence and bravado to pull off the mustache, whether it looks good or not. So I mean, I can't do it. If I were to shave my beard right now, and it would just be the the caterpillar that's on my upper lip. I don't know that. I don't know,
Craig. I think next week we want to see no beard and mustache only.
Oh, you know what? I've been flirting with shaving the beard for a little bit, and so going mustache
gotta keep
only.
Some facial hair, because I've seen you without the beard, and that's baby face, Craig.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll be literally shaving years off of my life if I go no beard. It's I keep telling people
start getting carded again.
Yeah, dude, I tell people that like I missed my opportunity to shave it because I could have done it during COVID and no one would have known, or not nobody would have known, but no one. If it looked bad, I could just wear a mask and it'd be fine. But now everything's obviously. I mean, of course we are kind of spiking a little bit, but masks aren't required at the moment. So I feel like if I shaved my beard off now, we run a big risk. But it's probably going to get shaved at some point. We'll see. But yeah, mustache only.
It's got to go straight to the mustache.
Yeah, straight to. I've tried no mustache and beard before, and that looks a little.
And then you get invited to a barn raising.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's when you start looking like somebody from like Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
But Chase Elliott and his mustache are on top of the point standings by 105 points. Ross Chastain is second. Ryan Blaney is third, back by 111. Kyle Larson sits fourth, 126 points back. Only one win on the season for Kyle Larson.
That's surprising.
Yes.
After coming off with 10 wins last season.
Right. Martin Truex Jr. rounds out the top five. And talking about what stands out the most for NASCAR, for me, it's the emergence of Trackhouse Racing. I mean, they were literally founded 2 years ago. They had one car, in 2021. That was Daniel Suarez. He had 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, finished 25th in points. They expanded to 2 cars this season. Daniel Suarez, who earned his first career win at Sonoma. He's got 5 top 5s on the season, 9 top 10s, including 4 straight coming into Indy. He's 12th in points at the moment. But the big story, we mentioned him. He's second in the point standings right now. That's Ross Chastain. second in points. He's got his first 2 wins of his career at Circuit of the Americas and Talladega. He's got 8 top 5s. He scored 14 of his 23 career top 10s this season. I mean, these are 2 drivers that aren't typically at the top, driving for a new team surrounded by names that we're used to seeing in the playoffs. So, I mean, these are 2
Ross
teams.
Chastain is not making any friends in doing so.
No, not at all. But I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, because these are 2 guys that, I know Trackhouse did buy Ganassi or buy out Ganassi, so I don't know how much of their equipment they still have or what they're using from Ganassi. But
it wasn't like Ganassi was a powerhouse in NASCAR.
True.
By any means, in the past few years.
True. And like what I was getting at there though is just that, like, to be able to do it, I mean, these are drivers that had, I feel like flamed out is too harsh, but like these drivers have driven for some of the big guys in NASCAR. I mean, as far as bigger names, I mean, even if you don't want to, I mean, Ganassi is still good.
Ganassi, yeah,
because that's where because Chastain drove.
Chastain was,
yeah. Suarez, I want to say he was with a team as well. I mean, he wasn't with like Hendrick or anybody.
Team.
Well, right, but I mean, I'm gonna have to look it up because I wanted to say it was like. I wanted to say it was Ganassi.
I know for a while Suarez was one of those guys that he didn't race a full season. He was mostly like the road courses. But yeah, for me, seeing a team like Trackhouse really come out of nowhere in year 2. It's awesome. It's interesting though with them, like with Ross Chastain, just his style of driving. I mean, look. He got a DNF this past week at Pocono because of his no holds bar style of driving. I don't care if you're my friend or not. It's going to be tough to maintain that because eventually once you get into the playoffs and you're up there ahead of somebody that needs to be ahead of you, they're not going to feel anything about moving you out of the way or pitting you or wrecking you. They're not going to care because you've been that style of driver all season long. And guess what? Once you get to one of the points races at Talladega in the playoffs, nobody's working with you. Nobody wants to work with you. And that's going to be an issue. Yeah, one of your wins has been Talladega. But since then, you've been really rubbing people the wrong way. And nobody's going to want to partner with you in helping get you to the front. They're going to want you. All right, no, I'm not working with you. I can't trust you because what if you're pushing me and all of a sudden, boom, I'm in the wall because you turned me. Like, and you've shown that you have no problem with turning somebody, which is okay. If that's the style of driver you are, that's great. NASCAR needs more of that again. I mean, we started seeing that. We're starting to see that with some of these younger drivers now, that they're okay with going back to that style of racing that we grew up watching. There's that driver that's in between the style we grew up watching and this new driver, like the Kyle Bushes, the Denny Hamlins, that they're more about I'm going to cry about it and not, and I'll react to what you did and I'll wreck you later. And when it's not going to, like when I'm like 4 laps down and I'm totally out of the race, but I'm okay with wrecking you, but the minute you push me out of the way and you try to race me hard, I'm going to cry about it. I mean, Kyle Busch has done that a lot. Like, I'm going to move you, but the minute you try to do something to me, oh, that guy needs to be taken off the track. Why is he racing so hard? Like, calm down. So I'm okay with the style Ross Chastain is choosing to run because I'm starting to see some of these other younger drivers do that as well. But you might, in some of these situations, you got to learn when to do it and when not to do it, because there's going to be times where you're going to need to work with some of these guys to help you. And you're going to want to make sure you're not everybody on the track is like zeroed in on you and wrecking you. So you got to learn the balance of that. I mean, yeah, Dale Earnhardt, he was great at that. He knew when to move somebody out of the way, but at the same time, he knew when not to. He knew when he was a smart race car driver, obviously. So that's something that Ross Chastain's got to learn. The other thing that really stands out to me is just the Hendrick dominance this season. Yeah, Chase Elliott's been on fire here as of late, but there was a time earlier this season where it was like every single week a driver from Hendrick Motorsports was winning, and all across all 4 of their drivers, and you even heard it amongst other drivers in interviews, like, hey, we got to figure out how to beat the Hendrick drivers. We have to figure out how to beat them. And it seems like it kind of ebbs and flows on which teams that goes for. For a long time, there was a period where it was Joe Gibbs. How can we beat the Joe Gibbs drivers? And now the Joe Gibbs drivers are kind of struggling. Denny Hamlin's doing okay. Same with Kyle Busch. Oh, wow. I guess he's not doing great.
Oh, by the way, real quick, speaking of Joe Gibbs, that's one of the teams Suarez is driven for. Joe Gibbs and Stuart Haas. For some reason, the only team that came to my mind was like Roush Fenway, and I was like, that's not a big time team, or at least not anymore. So I was like, yeah. So 2019 for Stuart Haas, that was what the last big time team Suarez is driven for. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, but that's really stood out to me is how dominant the Hendrick cars have been across the board this year, and they've been dominant like just on just about any style track. Same with Chase Elliott. I mean, it doesn't matter. Mile and a half, Chase Elliott's contending. Short track, Chase Elliott's contending. Road course, Chase Elliott's obviously contending. And then even at the super speedways, maybe Chase Elliott. It may not be Chase Elliott, but it's Alex Bowman. It's William Byron. There's Kyle Larson that's right there. I mean, it's really interesting just how good this team has been across the board. Because typically when you see some of these teams, it's like maybe 1 or 2 drivers that are just completely dominant. And like when Joe Gibbs was really good, there was like 1 or 2 drivers that were really dominant, and the other ones were okay. But I mean, across the board, any given week, a driver from Hendrick Motorsports can win that race.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it always seems to be, or has always been. Like since I was a kid, Hendrick has always had just amazing, an amazing team.
They had a downtime there. They had some growing pains when they decided that they were going to go younger. You know, there was that period where they had Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Yeah, that was a good team. That was a veteran team, and they saw I think what helped Hendrick Motorsports was that they saw the changing of the guard coming, and they knew we need to get ahead of this and get some of this young talent in. We're going to have some growing pains for a while, but it's actually going to ultimately benefit us. And look, it has. I mean, they were running for a couple of years with William Byron and Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott. I mean, yeah, Jimmy Johnson was there, and then he retired, and they brought in Kyle Larson, and it's all kind of just worked out for them. So now they have one of the best teams of young drivers, and they're not trying to rely on these older guys that will they retire? Are they going to come around another year, and trying to figure all that out. So yeah, they took their growing pains, but it was a really good shift. And I applaud them for taking that chance and realizing, hey, we're not going to be good for a couple of years, but these guys are going to get better and better and better. And it's paying off. It's paid off the last 2 years now.
Now, we alluded to it a little bit earlier on in the show. A couple of weeks ago, it was released that there is going to be a race on the Chicago street course. And so we wanted to kind of talk about that for a little bit.
It's not just a course. There's going to be a race through the streets of Chicago.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be. I looked at the digital renderings of the track, and they look really cool. Like I'm really excited to see it. Like my question is, and I've never really thought about it until I thought about it from this perspective of like other street courses. But I was like, could you theoretically, like, if I wanted to, could I, like, go down to I mean, I know it's not the Sears Tower now, but what was formerly known as the Sears Tower, go up in it and just watch, like. I mean, would could I just theoretically just stay up there and watch the race?
I'm sure there's going to be people that try that, and I'm sure it's going to be ultra expensive to get up there that day. It may even be a ticket you could buy. I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
I mean, it's going to be the same thing with all of those buildings. It's going to be, executive parties going on at all the buildings around there. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a cheap ticket.
Probably not.
I'll say that.
Not.
Look, obviously you can't. I'm not going to compare Miami for Formula One because that's Formula One. But Nashville, even for IndyCar, isn't exactly the cheapest IndyCar race to go to. I mean, I could I can go out to Gateway the day of and get a really great seat, and for a fair price. I don't think you'll be able to do that with NASCAR in Chicago. So
Probably not.
That'll be interesting because, yeah, I mean, is there an area for general admission? I don't know how that works. So,
but it is good to see.
Will I look into it? I'll look into it.
Yes,
for sure.
Definitely want to look into it.
Because I mean, I want to see how this works, because these cars are, I mean, they're smaller at least now, but I mean, this isn't like Formula One where they can whip around these streets that easily.
Right.
It's still stock car.
It is good to see Chicago back in the mix after Chicagoland was removed from the schedule. And I think changes like these will help breathe life back into the sport. I mean, adding new tracks always keeps things fresh, which I think NASCAR needs. Because I was thinking about it, I was like, I feel like the schedule hasn't changed that much since I was a fan.
They've lost tracks rather than
right. They've lost tracks, but like I know that like I know like by heart what the first 4 races like of the year are always going to be. That you can't say the same. I mean, not to say that it should just every year be drastically different, and I know some of that has to do with starting the season in February. You need to be, where it's warmer for those beginning months. But, like, for instance, IndyCar, I mean, yes, they always start at the street of St. Pete, but, like, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go from St. Pete to somewhere else. It's not, Road America hasn't always been, not Road America, whatever the second race of the year was this year, it's not always the second race. Was it Barber?
I think it was Barber.
No, it was Texas. Texas, that's what it was. So, Texas isn't typically the second
Texas
race.
is usually, like, right after Indy.
Right. So, it always seems like, the schedule's just kind of the same. You're going to be at Darlington this weekend. It's been like that for forever. They're going to be at this track this weekend. It's been like that forever. So, whenever you can do something to kind of spice up the schedule, I like it. So, I'm glad that they're doing this.
Yeah, I am too. And it's also going to help with sponsorships, because I know there's been a lot of issues with losing big key sponsors. So by going to a place like Chicago, and not have it at Chicagoland. Chicagoland was not in Chicago by any stretch of the imagination. It's way out there in the middle of nowhere as well. I think for corporate relations and stuff, it's a good move, and it's something different that's going to bring in more sponsor money for the sports. So yeah, I think it's a great move. But I'm really going to be interested to see how good the racing is. To me, that could be an issue. Like, how good are the streets going to be kept up? Because, I mean, it's Midwest in the winter. They get potholes. So obviously they'll fill in the potholes.
That'll be
unlike Indianapolis.
Could you imagine if they didn't? They're just like, it's part of it.
That would be here in Indianapolis. Like, we're going to do a street race through the city. But guess what? Mayor Hogsett says there's no further budget to fix the streets of Indianapolis. So good luck.
They just have like literal.
You can dodge a pothole, you can win a race.
They have just plywood over it.
If we're gonna talk about ovals for IndyCar, let's just throw them on 465.
That would be so. I mean, they already race. They already race on 465. So
they already race on 465. So let's just do it. Let's put NASCAR on 465 and just go.
That would be nuts. I would love it though.
Yeah, I'm all for this Chicago race. I don't know how long it will last, unfortunately, because I think they give it 2-3 years tops, and if the racing is not good, which it very well could be not good, I could see them saying, okay, that was a failed experiment. It was good. We liked it while it lasted, but time to move on and actually get something that's enjoyable to watch. But I can't say that too loud, because they may say the same thing about IMS. Yeah, racing's kind of boring there. We don't like it. We're out. And I'm like, I don't want that either.
Right. Well, I mean, you and I may differ on this next topic then. So will we see more street courses in the future for NASCAR? Because ironically, my view on NASCAR is actually the opposite of IndyCar. I think more road and street courses are better, and that's because these cars I mean, there are some tracks that are a bit more conducive for passing, but a lot of the races that I tune into, some of the marquee races on the season are ones where not a lot of action happens, and or if it does happen, it happens in very brief bunches throughout the course of a 3, 4, 5, 6 hour sometimes race. So I think putting these cars in a position where they like pretty much have to pass at some point. And it kind of forces the action a little bit more naturally. That's how my view is on there. There are 6 road courses on the schedule right now. Chicago would make it 7, so if they added like maybe 2 or 3 more, just in general road courses, I think it would be better for the sport. Make it a little bit more balanced. Make it a little bit more interesting. The F1 race. F1 is going to have a race on the streets of Las Vegas in 2023. That would be cool to
But
see.
that's majority of their schedule too. Street races like
Well, I
that.
know, but I'm saying like
Not majority. There's a good handful.
right. But what I'm saying is like Las Vegas. Like take the second race at Las Vegas away from like the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and put it on the streets of like have a street course race on the strip in the middle of the postseason. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty awesome. I think anyway. I think depending on how the Chicago thing goes, I mean, you could see them also maybe look into some road courses that are a little bit more, or some street courses that be a little bit more established, like a St. Pete, or Nashville's another like area where I think NASCAR could be good on the road on the street there. I know that races only happened 1 year, but I think those would be big hits. And then you mentioned it jokingly, but I think it would be cool. I don't know if it'll ever happen. It won't happen. But selfishly, I want to see an Indy street course in my lifetime. I think that would be cool. But
like I said, though, that would mean Indianapolis would actually have to do something about the streets.
But I do think NASCAR is moving in the right direction on this, because for the longest time there were just 2 road courses on the schedule regardless. And so the fact that the number keeps growing is a good sign. I mean, I know for the longest time it was literally like Sears Point and Watkins Glen. Those were the only 2 road courses on the schedule forever. And which is odd, because you would think like, okay, if you're like why keep it just like, if you're not gonna keep like expanding, and I know that they have deals with like all these other tracks, and that's why, but like also like why not just eliminate those 2 races and just be like, all right, we're gonna go all 36 races are ovals, or why not expand to like
because we wouldn't have gotten to see drivers like Boris said.
True, we wouldn't have seen there was another one too. Boris said, and who was the other one of the other? I know. Like, I think they literally are bringing back, like, Kimi Räikkönen for the Watkins Glen race this year. I know Jacques Villeneuve, but I feel like there was one more, like, road course regular. But, yeah, Boris said, dude, I forget. Dude, just random. I remember, like, they would have...
That dude was, like, the lead singer of System of a Down.
Right.
Look him up. Look him up. You're going to be like, whoa.
Get a split screen.
Boris said that was his road course racing was his side gig. His main job was lead singer of System of a Down.
I remember they used to have like an onboard camera that just showed his feet, and it just show like all the times like you'd have to shift and stuff. Those were interesting days. But yeah, I think street courses, if Chicago goes well, I think it's got a future, in NASCAR.
So I'm not going to say street courses, but I'm going to say more road courses. Look, there are plenty of road courses out there. I wish they would not have gotten rid of the Daytona road course.
Yeah, that's good.
I really like that one, because that one is a well-known one with the Rolex 24-hour race. But in the Xfinity, I mean, I think the big guys did go to Road America or Mid Ohio. I know Xfinity goes to both.
I'm not entirely sure,
but like, Mid Ohio, Road America, Barber Motorsports, Portland's got a pretty good road course as well, that if you want to get that market. How about Circuit of the Americas?
They go to Circuit of the...
They do?
That's where Ross Chastain won.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I mean, I think more road courses, not street courses. Road courses, I think these cars are now they're better handling on road courses than they were back then. Because look at the cars that when they only race just at Sears Point, it's always going to be Sears Point. It's never going to be Sonoma. Sears Point and Watkins Glen. Those cars were boats. I mean, those things were wide. I mean, they were they were boats. So they probably didn't handle as well on road courses. But these cars now, they have a little bit more maneuverability to them. So I don't know about street courses per se, because I don't know how this is going to be kind of a test. But I would definitely like to see, I think not too many more, but some more road courses I think would be interesting, because there are some really good road course tracks out there that would be fun to watch them on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of I think they're missing an opportunity at, you mentioned the Daytona one. Like, any track that's already on the schedule, take the second oval date away from it and put it on the road course that's already there. Like, why not?
If they have a road course. Well, I don't know. I do like 2 Daytona races.
Yeah.
Restrictor plate is fun. I love restrictor plate. I know people hate it because it's boring and there's no action until the end, but the stages have helped that. I wouldn't do that. Take one of those away, but bring back the Daytona road course, just because it is a good road course. It is well known. It's internationally known. Heck, go to Mexico City. Xfinity's raced on a road course down there. Go there if you're looking to expand. Let's stop with the gimmicky stuff like racing in a football stadium.
I mean, that was cool.
I mean, yeah, for a non-points race.
Right, yeah. I would never want them to race at the Coliseum for a points race. That would be silly.
But even the dirt at Bristol.
I think, honestly,
if you want, it's good, it's fun, but
that's what you need, though. If you're
so confusing, it's so confusing. Even the drivers are confused by it. Like,
I haven't.
They need to get a better grip on the rules and handling of that, as far as like rate, points, qualifying, and everything. If they're going to keep that up. Or if you're really going to do that, take it away from Bristol and go to Eldora. Just go do it somewhere that's built for it. Yeah. But I think more road course races would be fun, because there are plenty of really good road course options out there. I mean, Road America,
Laguna Seca, just because it's fun to say.
Which one?
Laguna Seca. It's fun to say.
That's the one in Portland. That's the one I'm thinking of. Laguna Seca. Yeah. I think it's not in Portland, but is it?
It's in California.
There was one in Portland a couple of years ago where they just could not get through the first 3 turns. And they were all plowing through these cardboard advertising signs and over and over and over in IndyCar. They just couldn't get through it. Like, Connor Daly blasted through them. Simon Pagenaud blasted through them. It was I forget who it was, what track it was, but something like that. I think it would be good for the sport, rather than going to Kansas 3 times or however many times they go. It feels like they're at Kansas all the time. And and that's like the most boring race, I feel like, in the entire, like, Atlanta used to be that way. Then Atlanta changed their setup, and it's like, okay, Atlanta, now you're entertaining, but they're at Kansas this week. Oh, they're at Kansas again. Like, can we stop with the Kansas? Like, seriously, when has Kansas become a NASCAR hotbed?
And I want to say, speaking of Kansas, that the trucks went back to Topeka a few years ago, so that's another road course you could potentially add that's got a little bit of history to it. So because I think more road courses are definitely good. But the road course we're talking about this weekend, the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard. Before we get into our predictions here, basically the big story of the race last year was the track issues, coming apart. And I forget what turn it was, but turn 5 and creating a couple of big crashes. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about they may ultimately decide one time to say, hey, we don't want to race at Indy anymore. Will NASCAR and IMS, will their future together take a hit if more track issues occur this season? I mean, it is something that's, I don't want to say it's necessarily looming over, but it definitely is a thought in your mind. I think technically yes, but I don't think there will be any issues. Remember the reason the Cup cars are on the road course is because attendance was dwindling for the Brickyard 400, so more track issues could cause more concern for NASCAR's future in Indy. But also, I mean, IMS President Doug Bulls and company are
way too much pride.
Yeah, they're.
No, I'm not saying that as a bad thing.
No.
Will not let track issues. Yeah, I mean, look, last year there was track issues because one of the chicanes was coming up, or one of the curbs that Indy cars, it doesn't matter. But NASCARs, they shoot out so wide on those turns that they were hitting this, and they caused the curb to come up, and the splitter was getting caught on it. So some of these cars were just getting absolutely destroyed, which was why we saw that red flag. I mean, he takes so much pride in that facility. During that red flag, he was out there in a business suit helping fill the hole and get everything patched up together. There's not going to be any issues.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're good at their jobs. They're gonna address the issue. I think it's gonna be in good shape.
I mean, the right people are in charge at that facility now. Roger Penske and Doug Bowles. That I can guarantee you, they have looked over that. Put that turn in particular under a microscope leading up to this weekend, and it is, everybody is on, has got to have, they got to go. This is it. That's the salute. They've got a solution.
Yeah.
So back when there was the Formula One debacle, which wasn't the track's fault, it kind of was. It was what they used to repave it. If we were having issues, if this issue came up under that administration, I would say, yeah, we could be potentially seeing a breakup. But with Roger Penske and Doug Bowles at the helm, they aren't letting that happen. And this is their facility. They will make the changes that are necessary
for sure
to make sure it doesn't happen. Now, that's not to say that the fix is 100% perfect. I mean, look, some of these NASCAR drivers also need to adjust their driving. They can't just plow through everything. And I mean, yeah, it's not an oval. Get over it.
True. So before we get out of here, let's get into our predictions for the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard. We're gonna do winner and dark horse just like we did for the IndyCar race. My winner my prediction is gonna be Kyle Larson. He sits fourth in points. He's just got one win on the season, which is wild. After a year, he won 11 if you count the exhibition race he won as well. He and Chase Elliott seem to be swapping wins on the road courses last year. 3 wins.
They got here.
Right. 3 wins on the road courses last season for Larson. So, he finished top, and he's also finished top 5 in 3 of the last 5 races. So I think he's due for a win. I think he's going to get back in victory circle. As far as my dark horse, Daniel Suarez, I'm going to go with him. He's got 1 road win on the season already at Sonoma. He's got 5 top 10 finishes, 3 top 5 finishes the last 6 races, so he's got plenty of momentum coming into Indy. So I think that's a driver to look out for, but overall, I think Kyle Larson's going to get it done.
Look, right now, I got to go with the hottest driver in NASCAR. His worst finish has been like 3rd, I think, over the last 5 weeks or so, 5 races. That's Chase Elliott. I have to go with Chase Elliott because he is just on fire right now. And we're coming into his wheelhouse, which is a road course. He is how many road course races did he win in a row there for a while? It was like every road course Chase Elliott won at, which was a big reason why he won his first championship 2 years ago. So I'm going with Chase. I think last year him and Kyle Larson came in really hot on the road courses and they really underperformed. I think that's not going to sit well with him. His dad's got a victory here at Indianapolis on the oval. He wants to etch his name in that as well. Obviously, it's not the oval, but still. And I have a feeling that the Dawsonville Pool Hall siren is going to be sounding come Sunday evening. My dark horse is actually Kyle Larson because of his only having 1 win this year, and he's 4th in the points. He's always up there, but for some reason, because of the recent success of Chase Elliott, you're not really thinking about Kyle Larson. So he's kind of coming in under the radar, and he is due. Like you said, he is due, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him in victory lane either. But I have to go with Chase Elliott as my predicted winner, just based off of how he's on a hot streak right now. And I got to go Kyle Larson as dark horse, even though he's not really, I don't know if you can really consider him a dark horse, but just because I feel like he is due, and I would not be surprised to see him taking that checkered flag.
It would be cool for Chase Elliott to win as well, just for the fact that like you have a lot of history of at Indianapolis of like families, multiple generations.
There's a great picture of him in victory lane with his dad,
right,
at IMS.
So, I was at that race that he won. That's pretty, pretty
I was
wild.
not. I was not even. I was out of the country, but I learned that Bill Elliott won, when I was in London. I was trying to find who won the Brickyard 400 while you're in London. Not easy.
Very low on the totem pole.
Very low.
Well, that will do it for this week's edition of the Crash Course Podcast. Thank you guys all for listening. Remember, you can like us on Facebook, 3C Media. Go follow us on Twitter at 3C Media Sports. Keep showing the love on the YouTube channel. You guys have been killing it. Go over there, subscribe, ring the bell, turn notifications on. 3C Media on TikTok as well. And remember, you can listen every week on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard. You can hear the Crash Course Podcast. B. Scott, where can they find you?
Find me on Twitter at Brandon_Scott87.
You can follow me as well at Crash Course FM on Twitter. Next week, we'll be recapping these great races and giving kind of an outlook on the rest of the season. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. Hope everybody, if you are going out to track or even if you're not, enjoy a fantastic weekend of racing. We'll be back next week, but until then, have a good one, everybody.